The first thing Earl Whitaker noticed was the sound his heart made when it betrayed him. It wasn't pain, not at first. It was a hollow flutter, like a bird trapped in a wall, frantic and wrong. Earl paused mid-step near the north entrance of Brookside Mall, one hand tightening around his radio, the other pressing instinctively to his chest. The polished tile floor reflected the overhead lights too brightly, as if the world had been turned up a notch without his permission. "Control," he said into the radio, steady out of habit more than comfort. "Oh, I'm going to sit for a second." No answer came. Or maybe it did and Earl simply couldn't hear it anymore. What he did see, through the narrowing tunnel of his vision, was a young woman standing by the directory map near the food court. Navy blue scrubs. A hospital badge clipped to her pocket. A large tote slung over one shoulder. And for reasons he would never fully be able to explain, the thought that crossed his mind was not help. It was trouble. Earl had worked security at Brookside Mall for 19 years, 3 months and 12 days. He knew because he counted. Retirement brochures came in the mail now, thick envelopes promising rest and fishing and something called golden years. Earl stacked them neatly on the kitchen table and never opened them. He liked routine. The mall had rhythm. Doors unlocked at 8 sharp, walkers doing laps before stores opened, the smell of pretzels blooming at 10, teenagers arriving in noisy flocks by 3. Earl walked his route the same way every day, nodding to shop owners, adjusting his cap when it slipped. He told himself he was keeping people safe. And part of that, if he was honest, was watching for people who didn't belong. He'd never used the word profile. That sounded ugly, official. Instead he called it instinct, experience, common sense. So when he saw the young black woman in scrubs lingering by the directory for longer than he liked, his shoulders tightened. Mall employees had badges. Shoppers moved with purpose. People who stood still too long usually wanted something, or planned to take something. Earl adjusted his belt and started toward her. Aisha Thompson had been awake for 22 hours. Her shift at Mercy General had been brutal, understaffed, overbooked, relentless. She'd missed lunch. She'd missed dinner. The vending machine granola bar she'd eaten at midnight had tasted like chalk. All she wanted was new shoes. Her old ones were done, soles worn thin from miles of hospital corridors, backs collapsing inward. A nurse's feet didn't get days off. She needed something supportive, something that wouldn't leave her limping through 12-hour shifts. Brookside Mall was on her way home. She'd parked, walked inside, and immediately realized she had no idea where the shoe store had moved after the renovation. Hence the directory. She was reading it when a shadow fell across the map. "Can I help you with something?" a man's voice asked. It wasn't friendly. It wasn't rude either. It was guarded. Measured. Aisha looked up at an elderly white man in a security uniform. His posture was stiff, his eyes sharp but tired. "Oh, yeah," she said, offering a polite smile she had practiced her whole life. "I'm looking for Footstep. The shoe store." "It's on the east wing," he said. His gaze flicked to her tote, then to her badge, then back to her face. "You work at the hospital?" "Yes, sir. I'm a nurse." The sound was small, but Aisha felt it anyway. That familiar tightening in her chest. Not fear exactly, but awareness. The kind that came from knowing you were being measured against something you didn't control. "Well," Earl said after a beat too long. "Try not to block walkways. People need to move through." "I wasn't," she said gently. "But thank you." She turned toward the east wing. She could feel his eyes on her back. Earl watched her go, unease curling in his gut. Scrubs didn't mean anything these days. People wore costumes. Fake badges. He'd seen it on the news. Seen it online. Everyone had. Still, something tugged at him. Not suspicion alone. Something else. A whisper of doubt. He shook it off and continued his patrol. By the time he reached the north entrance again, the whisper had turned into that strange flutter. Then the pressure came, heavy, insistent, like a hand squeezing from the inside. Earl slowed. Sweat beaded on his forehead. "You're just tired," he told himself. "Too much coffee." But his knees buckled anyway. Aisha was halfway to the shoe store when she heard the commotion. A sharp cry. A radio clattering to the floor. A thud that made nearby shoppers gasp. She turned. The security guard, the man from before, was on the ground. People froze. Some stepped back. A woman raised her phone. A teenager whispered, "Is he dead?" Aisha didn't hesitate. She dropped her tote and ran. "Sir?" she said, kneeling beside him. "Sir, can you hear me?" Earl's eyes were open but unfocused. His breathing was shallow, uneven. Chest pain. Diaphoresis. Collapse. Her mind clicked into clinical mode. "Someone call 911, she said loudly, projecting calm authority. "Now. Tell them we have a suspected cardiac arrest at Brookside Mall, north entrance." A man fumbled with his phone. Another stepped back nervously. Aisha pressed 2 fingers to Earl's neck. "Pulse weak. Ready." "Sir, I'm a nurse," she said, leaning close so he could hear her. "My name is Aisha. I need you to stay with me, okay?" Earl couldn't speak. But somewhere in the fog he recognized her voice. The young woman. The one he'd watched. Just. His heart stuttered again. Then stopped cooperating altogether. "Clear the space," Aisha ordered. She repositioned Earl flat on his back, checked his airway and began chest compressions. Her arms locked, shoulders over her hands, rhythm precise. 1, 2, 3. Her count matched the pounding in her own ears. Mall security arrived, breathless and pale. "He's coming," one of them shouted. "Good," Aisha said without looking up. "Hurry." She didn't feel the tile biting into her knees. Didn't hear the murmurs or the phone's recording. There was only the work. The same work she did every day. The work that mattered. The AED arrived. She tore it open, applied the pads with practiced speed. "Clear," the device instructed. She leaned back, heart hammering. Shock delivered. Earl's body jolted. "Resume CPR," the voice said. Aisha did. Seconds stretched like hours. Then, movement. A cough. A gasp. A pulse stronger now. Aisha sagged back on her heels as sirens wailed in the distance. "He's back," she said softly. "He's back." Earl woke up in a hospital room that smelled like antiseptic and lemon cleaner. His chest ached. His throat was dry. His arm was heavy with 4 lines. A nurse noticed his eyes flutter open and smiled. "Welcome back, Mr. Whitaker." His voice came out rough. "What happened?" "You had a heart attack," she said. "A big one." "You're lucky." "Lucky." The word echoed. Later, after doctors and tests and explanations, Earl lay staring at the ceiling. The events came back in fragments. The flutter, the fall, the face hovering over him. Her face. "She," he said suddenly, turning to the nurse adjusting his monitor. "The woman at the mall. Is she?" The nurse smiled wider. "Aisha? She saved your life." Earl swallowed. "Is she here?" "She checked on you earlier, but she had to work tonight." "Of course she did." Aisha returned the next day, still in scrubs, still exhausted. She stood awkwardly in the doorway, unsure if she was welcome. Earl looked smaller in the hospital bed. Less solid. His eyes found hers and filled with something that made her pause. "You," he said. "Yes, sir," she replied. "I heard you were awake." He took a breath. "You saved my life." She nodded. "I did my job." "No," Earl said. "You did more than that." Silence stretched. "I judged you," he said finally, voice trembling. "At the mall. I saw you and thought. I thought wrong things." Aisha didn't answer right away. She'd heard confessions before, from patients, families, strangers on bad days. "I know," she said quietly. Earl's eyes dropped. "And you still stopped. You still helped me." Aisha folded her hands. "That's what nurses do." "But you didn't have to," he said. She met his gaze then, steady and kind. "Yes," she said. "I did." Earl retired 3 months later. On his last day he walked the mall one final time. He noticed things he hadn't before, the way people lingered, the way fear made everyone look suspicious, the way assumptions filled the quiet spaces. He thought of Aisha. Of her hands, firm and sure. Of how close he'd come to dying, watched by people who didn't know what to do. And of the woman he almost dismissed, the one who turned out to be the reason he was still breathing. The mall doors slid open, letting in a rush of light. Earl stepped forward, heart steady now, carrying a lesson that had arrived just in time, a lesson that has shaped his mentality for the rest of his life.